Your horse can pick your face out of a lineup of photographs. It gets that right about 3 times out of 4, even someone it has not seen in 6 months. Your horse keeps a file on you, your face, your voice, your smell, all saved under one name. And the part that stings, the human it files as its favorite is usually not the one who feeds it. So who does your horse pick, and how does it decide? For years, the story went like this. A horse loves whoever feeds it. Fill the bucket, win the heart. It feels true because food is the one thing we hand a horse every single day, right on schedule. And we humans tend to bond with whoever shares our meals, so we assume a horse must work the same way. But when scientists tested which human a horse would actually choose, the feed bucket lost. The favorite turns out to be the person who handles it calmly and the same way every time. The one whose behavior the horse can predict. Food still counts, and we will come back to exactly why. It is just not the thing that decides. Think of the barn, where one person does the feeding and someone else does the daily handling. More often than not, it is the handler the horse follows around, not the person with the bucket. Which leaves a bigger question. How does a horse tell one human from another well enough to have a favorite? The answer is stranger than most owners expect. Start with how a horse recognizes another horse, because that is where the cleanest evidence comes from. Researchers walked one horse past another, then hit a loudspeaker nearby and played a recorded call. Sometimes the call matched the horse that had just walked by. Sometimes it belonged to a completely different horse. When the voice did not match the animal just seen, the horse snapped toward the speaker and stared far longer. It was surprised. The face said one friend, the voice said another, and the two did not line up. That only makes sense if the horse had tied that face and that voice into a single idea of that individual. A horse does not keep a face in one drawer and a voice in another. It builds one picture of an individual out of several senses at once. The face it sees, the voice it hears, and the smell it catches all fold into a single file. Lose one channel, and the other two still tell the horse exactly who is standing in front of it. And here is the part that matters for you. Horses do the very same thing with people. Play a familiar human's voice while the wrong person stands there, and the horse reacts as if something is wrong. It expected that voice to belong to a specific face. Your face and your voice are stitched together in its head, and it notices when they come apart. To your horse, you are not a smell, or a shape, or a sound. You are all of them at once. Smell does its own quiet work in that file. A horse's sense of smell dwarfs ours. The people it lives with each carry a scent as distinct to the horse as a face is to us. It is why your horse knows you the moment you step into the barn, long before you say a word. Cover your horse's eyes and stay silent, and it can still tell that you are the one who walked in. Then there is the photograph test, and this is the one that stops people cold. 11 horses were taught to use a touchscreen with their nose, the way you might tap a tablet. Then they were shown 2 photos side by side, their own keeper and a stranger they had never met. The horses picked their keeper about 3 times out of 4, far more often than chance could explain. Then the researchers pushed harder, pulling out a photo of a keeper the horse had not seen in 6 months. The horses still found the right face. If anything, they were even more accurate on the person from their past. Think about that. A flat photograph. No voice, no smell, no bucket of feed anywhere near. And half a year later, the horse still knew that face on sight. Recognizing you is only half the story. Your horse also keeps track of how you made it feel. In one study, horses were shown large photographs of human faces, some angry, some friendly and relaxed. When the face was angry, the horse's heart rate climbed faster, its body bracing as if a threat were coming.
The horses also tended to look at the angry faces with their left eye. That sounds like a small detail, but it is not. The left eye feeds the right side of the brain, the side that deals with danger and fear. They were studying those angry faces the way you would study something that might hurt you. A still image on a screen was enough to move a living heartbeat. The next study is the one that should change how you behave around your own horse. Horses were shown a photo of a person looking angry, or the very same person looking calm and pleasant. A few hours later, that same human walked up in real life, this time with a flat, neutral face. The horses that had earlier seen the angry photo stayed wary. They kept more distance, watched more closely, and treated that person as more of a risk. They had quietly tagged one specific human with a bad memory and acted on it hours later, face to face. This is not a horse reacting to whoever holds the rope. It is a memory of an individual, carried across time. That is exactly the machinery a favorite needs. It goes beyond knowing your face. The horse remembers how you treat it and adjusts before you do a thing. So, if it is not the feed bucket, what actually earns a horse's trust? The answer is almost boring, and that is exactly why it gets missed. It is being calm and predictable, the same way, over and over. Researchers measured horses' hearts while they were groomed, sometimes by a familiar person, sometimes by a stranger. With the familiar handler, the horse's body settled. The signals of the calm, rest and recover branch of the nervous system rose, the system that runs when an animal feels safe. The horse's body was, in effect, saying, "I know this one. I can lower my guard." That settled feeling is not built in a single good afternoon. It is built out of hundreds of small, quiet sessions that all end the same unremarkable way. So the calmer you keep each session, the more your horse's body learns to switch off its alarm around you. Over enough repeats, your presence itself becomes a signal to relax. Think about it from the horse's side. A prey animal survives by spotting what is out of the ordinary. A handler who is gentle one day and sharp the next never stops being a puzzle to solve. A handler who is the same every time slowly stops being a threat to watch and becomes safe, known background. That predictability is worth more to a nervous animal than any treat. This is where food comes back in, because it does matter, just not the way the old story claims. Ponies trained with rewards, food among them, stayed friendlier toward people months later. Some of that goodwill even spilled over onto humans they had never met. So reward really does build a lasting good memory of people. And food is one ingredient in that. But it works because it is wrapped inside calm, positive handling, not because the bucket itself buys affection. Drop feed and walk off without a word every day, and you are little more than a vending machine. Do calm, good things with your horse, and you become a person worth choosing. One recent test borrowed a method first designed for human babies and their parents. 30 horses were brought into an unfamiliar setup with 2 people, their own regular rider and someone they did not know. The horses moved toward their own rider sooner and stayed closer to that person throughout. Given the choice, a horse drifts toward the human it knows and works with, not the one holding the food. None of this shows up as drama. It shows up as a horse that walks toward you in the field instead of drifting away. As a horse that lowers its head and softens when it is your turn to handle it. Now the honest part, because the science quietly refuses to back up everything the myth promises. You have almost certainly heard that a horse is calmest with its favorite person when it gets frightened. That is the one claim that mostly falls apart under testing. In that same strange setup, the preferred rider did not become a safe place once real fear kicked in. In another study, horses facing something genuinely scary were no calmer with their owner than with a skilled stranger. What steadied them was competent handling, steady hands, and good timing, not whose hands were on the rope. So the bond is real, but it shows up as preference and closeness, not as a shield against fear. A calm, capable stranger can settle your scared horse about as well as you can. That is worth knowing before a tense afternoon at the vet or a trailer that will not load. You have probably also heard that a horse syncs to your heartbeat and feels your every emotion. Part of that is real. Tension leaks out through your posture and your hands, and a horse picks it up. In one test, handlers braced for a scare that was staged never to happen. The horse's heart rates rose right along with theirs, though there was nothing for the animals to see or hear. So the feeling does travel. But the idea gets badly oversold. How skilled and steady you are usually predicts your horse's state better than whatever emotion you carry inside. Newer work measured this back and forth more carefully and found the influence runs both ways, from human to horse and from horse to human, shifting with how familiar the pair is and who is leading. It is a real two-way effect. It is just far smaller and more situational than the mystical version you hear. And the bonding hormone that always gets mentioned? The evidence there is genuinely thin. Gentle, quiet contact does seem to nudge that hormone up on the horse's side without raising its stress hormone. That fits the picture of a calm, positive moment. But on the human side, the same result did not appear, and the studies so far are small. Treated as a promising hint about what a good interaction does inside the body, not proof of a love bond. So how do you actually become your horse's favorite person? Be the same person in every session, with the same calm voice and the same unhurried hands. Keep a routine your horse can see coming from across the yard. Do things with your horse, not merely for it. Grooming, quiet groundwork, and reward-based training all write entries into that good file. Feeding and leaving writes almost nothing at all. And guard that file, because it runs both directions. A single rough, frightening session can leave a horse warier of you for a long time. Exactly the way those horses stayed wary of the angry photograph. The horse that remembered a stranger's bad mood will remember yours too. Rush the job in a bad temper, and you can spend trust you took months to build. Arrive calm, keep your hands soft, and every ordinary session quietly adds to the good side of the file. If you change only one thing, make it this. End every session the same calm way, even the hard ones. So the last thing your horse files is that you can be trusted. So your horse has already chosen. And it did not choose by counting meals. It chose by keeping a quiet record of who is safe, who is steady, and who it can read without surprises. The favorite is not whoever fills the bucket. It is whoever shows up the same calm way, one ordinary day after another. You are already in there, filed under your face, your voice, and the way you make your horse feel. The only question left is what that file says about you. And that part, in every single session, is yours to write. There is far more happening inside your horse's mind than most people ever stop to notice. Subscribe, and we will keep following the science wherever it actually leads.